What's up, nerds? What's up, boys and girls? What's up, ladies and gentlemen? What's up, cats and dogs? It's your boy, the OGGM, coming to you live and in charge from a small island off the coast of Costa Rica known as Site B. Here we are. It is Wednesday in most corners of the world. It's about 9:47, 10 o'clock. It's the 15th day of February 2023. It is 50 degrees and blustery cold today. Here we are getting this weird end of the winter gale something coming off the coast. So brr, and of course, because it's weather, my whole body is falling apart. You ever wanted to know what the OGGM superpower is? It's weather. I can't control the weather, but I can sort of predict the weather. And I can tell you by how bad my head feels what kind of weather we're going to get and when it's going to change. You don't care. Today we are looking at the third and final chunk of the first playtest from Project Black Flag from Kobold Press, something we were very excited about. And now that we've seen it, our excitement has diminished to a Now, in Kobold Press's defense, they have had to write this very quickly. They began working on this during the January OGL wars. They do have a very large and vibrant 5e back catalog of multiple adventures and stuff like that. In fact, Kobold Press is one of the very first companies that jumped on the 5e bandwagon all the way back in 2014, 2015, and they have made a plethora, yes, I managed to use plethora in a sentence, of 5e product. So, of course, as they are continuing on, they want to make their system backwards compatible with everything they've made in the past, as well as embracing the future of the 5e license. So the fact that there are a lot of similarities between Project Black Flag and 5e as it stands today is understandable. And they've made it very clear that going forward, they're going to finish fulfilling all their 5e contracts that they have standing. And then they're going to be making their product that both falls under Project Black Flag, 5e as whatever 5e will be a year from now, and I guess the Orc as well. So the Orc is the OGL that protects all these companies and allows them to make this product. So it's the binding laws. And then Project Black Flag is this company's attempt to take 5e and adapt it. But the main issues we're having is it looks so much like 5e already. Why buy your thing? I've already got 5e. And there's already Pathfinder 2nd Edition. And there's already Level Up 5e. And there's already a couple other 5e retro clones. So if I'm going to spend 50 to 100 bucks on a brand new thing, Project Black Flag, it has to be different enough and exciting enough to make me go, I'd rather run this system over 5e. Now, again, they started working on this before Wizards of the Coast gave in and put 5e under the supposedly incorrect Creative Commons. And as things stand now, Wizards of the Coast is claiming they're leaving it alone. They're never going to touch it again. They're very obvious. Hey, we're not going to support 5e anymore because we've got one D&D coming out /6th edition. So anything we make after 2024 is going to be for that. But if you want to still use 5e as it stands today, go ahead. We're not going to stop you. Apparently, supposedly we can't. Or can we? Which leaves Kobold Press in a very perilous predicament. Because when they started writing this, they were under the impression that 5e was going to cease to exist, and they weren't going to be able to write 5e stuff anymore. So they had to rush to get a 5e clone out that would fall under the ORC and allow them to continue to make product for 5e or looked like 5e. But then things changed. So now they're like, well, we've already started this. Let's finish this, and then let's see what happens. Nobody expected Pathfinder to get as big as it was. It was just an alternative to what 4th edition was for people who wanted to continue to play D&D the way they were used to. But it presented enough different things, and it was at the perfect time, at the perfect place, at the perfect series of events for Pathfinder 1st edition to become the megalith that it was for the while, until 2014. Can Project Black Flag do the same? Can it take advantage of the series of events and everything that has happened so that when it comes out, it can be as equal to or even succeed over 5e and whatever 5e looks like a year from now. In order to do that again, they have to offer something that is familiar enough, but also exciting and different enough. And right now, unfortunately, Level Up, what is this thing called? Project Black Flag looks exactly a lot like Level Up 5e, and it looks exactly a lot like some of the other retro clones for 5e we have seen. Good morning to all 4 of you who are watching this. So, talents, feats, what do you go? Okay, so you get one of these at first level. Each of the backgrounds has some suggested talents or some mandatory talents. It looks like they're going with mandatory. Soldier, if you take the soldier background, you mandatorily have the following options: armor training, combat casting, or combat conditioning. Perhaps that will be changed to choose. We recommend one of these 3, but take whatever talent you want. You get one talent at first, and then I assume you get another one at some other level. To 3 categories: magic talents, martial talents, and technical talents. Your class typically determines which talent list you have access to. Talents are gained in 2 main ways. When your character chooses their background during character creation, they select one talent from the list of options provided in the background. When a character class grants an improvement, they can choose to increase a single ability score by 2, 2 different ability scores by 1, or choose a talent from their list. So yeah, it's the same. It's exactly the same. I don't know what levels the improvements are going to be. Right now, it's 4th. At 4th level in D&D, you can choose to take the stat bonus or take a feat, as long as you meet the pre-requirements. So let's look at some of the example talents. First off, we have the magic talents. The prerequisite is you have to have the ability to cast spells. The first one is combat casting. Now, as a soldier, I could take combat casting, but I don't have the ability to cast spells, so I can't take combat casting. But as a soldier, it says I can. So I can take the feat, but I can't use the talent until I actually cast spells. So I would have to be a member of a race that have some innate spell casting, like say an elf. But if I wanted to be a human soldier and take combat casting because I want to be an Eldereth Knight, well, I couldn't take it at first, even though it's one of the recommended feats at first, which means I can take it. So I have the feat, but I can't cast spells yet, which means already that's a problem. All right, combat casting. You can automatically succeed on condition saving throws you make to maintain your concentration on spells if the DC is lower than your spell casting DC. Wow, that's super powered. When a hostile creature first enters a space within 5 feet of you or provokes an attack of opportunity from you, you can use your reaction to cast a free cantrip, which, you kind of can do anyways. But this one is, wow, again, and use your shield or weapon. You can use a shield or weapon while you are spell casting. Becomes your focus. So it becomes the focus for the spells that require focuses. So you don't need an arcane focus. If you have the combat casting feat, you can use your sword as the feat. So yeah, is this better than the Wizards of the Coast version of combat casting? Or the same? I mean, never failing the concentration check if you get hit. Oh man, that would have helped me in a lot of the battles in the last 5e game I was playing, because most of the spells I had going were concentration, and I can't tell you how many times I got hit upside the head and suddenly, oh, there goes my haste spell. And you get that at first level, as long as you can have combat casting as first level and you can cast a spell, unless, of course, you can't. We already did this. Then we have the Elemental Savant. Prerequisite, the ability to cast at least one spell that deals damage. Choose one of the following elemental damage types: acid, cold, fire, lightning, or thunder. Whenever you cast a spell that deals damage, you can decide to convert the damage type of the spell to your chosen elemental damage type. You must decide to convert the damage type when you declare your casting spell. Always go acid, because there's hardly anything that's immune to acid. Additionally, when you roll damage for a spell that naturally uses your chosen elemental type, not spells you convert, you may reroll any damage dice results of 1, and you must take the new results. You can select this talent multiple times. Oh, so you can only choose it once. So Elemental Savant Cold, which means I can turn any spell I want to a cold spell. But if I want to do also lightning, I have to take it a second time. If I want to do acid, I want to take it a third time. Didn't the other one let you just choose? I feel like, because I feel like when I had it in, I could choose which one at the time, so I could alter my spells. I usually went acid because very few things are immune to acid. But now you only get one choice. But as long as you're casting cold spells that are naturally cold spells, you can reroll once. Is this broken? Not that. I don't know. Feels like the same. Mental fortitude. Once per long rest, when you fail in an int, wisdom, or charisma saving throw, you can choose to reroll the save and take the new result. You must declare your intentions to reroll before the result of the save. If you're affected by an ongoing spell or magical effect due to failing an int, wisdom, or charisma save, you can repeat the save at the end of each of your turns, ending the effect on your 6th, even if the ongoing magical effect would not typically allow you to do so. Except most ongoing magical effects have been rewritten, so you get a save at the end of every round because we don't want to take player agency away. So they're saying, well, we're not going to embrace that. So just despite all the things we have in the introduction that sound a lot like 5e, we're going to say that if you get a hold spell cast on you and it says you're held for 1d6 rounds, no saving throw, we're going to keep that unless you take this feat, which gives you a saving throw. As opposed to Wizards of the Coast, which all their now spells say at the end of every round you get a saving throw, because we don't want you to ever feel like we've taken away your agency. So that's cool. But of course, there are going to be people who goes, that's not fair that my character can't do anything for 6 rounds. You're taking away my agency, so change that so I get a saving throw every round. Or in my 30-page backstory, I have written in that can't affect me. So you have to give me the ability to be immune to these types of spells. Or I'm going to call you toxic. Yeah, I see that one's going to be changed. School specialization. Prerequisite. You have to know how to cast spells. Choose one of the 8 schools of magic: aberration, conjuration, divination, enchantment, evocation, illusion, necromancy, or transmutations. So basically the exact same spell schools that already exist. Whenever you cast a spell from that school that requires you to make an attack roll, add +1. That's cool. Whenever you cast a spell from that school that requires a target to make a save versus spell, the DC increases by 1. So if it's a roll to hit, I get to add +1. If it's a general effect where you have to make the saving throw versus a DC, increase the saving throw by +1. If you use a spell book to cast your spells, the gold and time you must spend copying the spell of that school into your spell book is halved. You can select this talent multiple times. So I could take school specialization, evocation, and then just keep taking it every chance I got. So +1 to my, +2 to my, +3 to my. My saving throw is getting harder and harder for those fireballs. Oh my. Then we have the martial talents. Armor training. You've trained to master the use of armor. You gain proficiency in light armor. If you are already proficient with light armor, then you select this talent, you gain proficiency with medium armor and shields. If you're already proficient with medium armor and shields, and you select this talent, you gain proficiency with heavy armor. You select this talent multiple times, which if you wanted to be a class that could normally not wear heavy armor, to be able to wear heavy armor, like say a wizard, there you go. Now you can. Armored combatant, proficiency with heavy armor. When you're wearing armor, you gain a +1 bonus to RC, and each instance of bludgeoning, piercing, or slashing damage that you take from non-magical attacks is reduced by your proficiency bonus. So you have an automatic DR of 2 at first level, and your armor class goes up by 1 simply because you know how to wear heavy armor better than other guys. But you have to be proficient with heavy armor. And since we haven't seen the fighter and cleric class, we don't know if that's something you get automatically or if you'd have to take the feat. Combat conditioncy. Your hit point maximum increases by 2 for each level you currently have. Interesting. I never really understood hit points versus hit points maximum. Somebody explained it to me once and it still didn't really make sense. Whenever you gain a level, your new hit die is 1 size larger than your class typically grants. For example, a wizard with this talent would have a D6 instead of a D8 instead of a D6. And if you already use the highest one there is, it has no effect. So the highest one being a D12, which used to be barbarians. I don't know if anybody's going to still be able to use that. So if your normal hit dice is a D6, you could take this feat and then roll a D8, which is cool if you want to be slightly tougher, I guess. Is that the only thing it gives me? And the increased hit point maximum. So normally, if I'm first level and I roll a D6 plus my constitution of the semi-constitution gives me a +2. The maximum number of hit points I could have at first level is 8. I can never have 9. But now this says I could have 11, even though my maximum hit point is 8. So the maximum hit points level. So it doesn't make sense unless there's something that allows me to raise that. And even that would be temporarily. So if my hit points are 10, my max hit points are 10, you give me ability to have max hit points of 12, I get healed. Does that mean I get healed up to 12? Then where does those extra 2 goes when the spells wear off? I don't know. It doesn't make sense. It's a stupid rule. Hand to hand. Through regular practice of wrestling, boxing, or engaging in some other form of martial arts, you have mastered techniques that allow you to efficiently fight without the use of weapons. You gain the following benefits. You are proficient in unarmed strikes. If you are a medium-sized creature, your unarmed strikes deals bludgeoning damage equal to D6 plus your strength. If you're a small-sized creature, your unarmed strikes deal bludgeoning damage equal to 1d4 plus your strength. You have advantage on the ability checks to make an initiate or escape from a grapple. So they're using advantage or disadvantage, and they're saying that you have to be proficient in unarmed strikes, and then you do a D6 if you're a medium creature, which is nice. Of course, it also depends on what a first level monk gets. If it's a first level monk better than that or worse than that. Of course, a first level monk's hand-to-hand damage would go up and a normal guy wouldn't. It doesn't say you can't take this one twice. And finally, we have some examples of technical talents. Polyglot. You study languages extensively, allowing you to effortlessly communicate with multiple languages and puzzle out critical information from languages you don't know. When you select this talent, you gain the following. Learn up to 3 new languages, none of which are common. You have advantage on charisma ability checks made to interact with non-hostile creatures for whom any of these languages is their primary languages. Any of those 3 languages is their primary. So if I'm interacting with a non-hostile creature that speaks one of the 3 languages I chose, I get advantage on my ability checks when interacting with them because I speak their language. As opposed to somebody who speaks their language and isn't a polyglot, then you don't get that. So apparently I speak the language better than a native? How does that make sense? So we have a native of Coffee Land, and we have me who comes into Coffee Land who knows the language of Coffee Land. I'm saying that because there's a cup of coffee on the table. So the native and I both know coffee language. The polyglot knows it and gets advantage when he tries to talk to the native from Coffee Land. But me, who's a native of Coffee Land, tries to talk to the same guy. I don't. Even though I grew up in the culture, I know the language. The guy's my freaking cousin. But this guy speaks my language better than me? How does that make sense? Whenever you make an ability check related to understanding the meaning of verbal or written language that you don't know, you can add your proficiency bonus. If you have proficiency in a relevant skill or tool, you double your proficiency bonus for the roll. Trade skills. You have honed the skills necessary to perform a particular job or profession. When you select this talent, decide what the profession is and then gain the following benefits, because that comes into play so much in D&D 5e. Gain proficiency with 1 skill and 1 type of tool or vehicle relevant to your chosen profession. Alternatively, gain proficiency with 2 types of tools or vehicle relevant to your chosen profession. So I could take 2 types of tools that I'm proficient with, or 2 types of vehicles, or I could take one type of tool or vehicle, or 2 types of tools or vehicles, both relevant to my chosen profession. Provide you access to the necessary equipment and customers, you can spend the day playing your trade and expect to be paid 2 gold pieces or paid with goods and services of equivalent value. So you'll select this talent multiple times. Take this talent. I gain proficiency with 1 skill and 1 type of tool or vehicle relevant to your chosen profession. So if my chosen profession is blacksmithing, I gain proficiency with blacksmithing. I get proficiency with blacksmithing tools, or I can take proficiency with the blacksmithing vehicle. Alternatively, I can say I'm not proficient in the skill, but I am proficient in the types of tools. So blacksmithing tools and metal smithing tools, or 2 vehicles chosen to your profession. So I can now be proficient with 2 blacksmithing vehicles. So I have to have the profession first, or you gain a proficiency. No, you just gain the proficiency, so you still have to know the skill. So blacksmithing. Then I get to add blacksmithing. I get to add proficiency with the blacksmithing tools in addition to blacksmithing. So tools, skills, and profession skills are separate again, as opposed to 5e, where it was just if you knew blacksmithing tools, you knew you were a blacksmith, and there was no blacksmithing skill, and there was no knowledge blacksmithing skill. You had the tool proficiency, which was never really explained. And a lot of people had to just sort of fumble what you could and could not do with the tool skills, and what stats were appropriate, and what you actually got in the toolkits. And even today, there's been hardly any explanation of what exactly constitutes blacksmithing tools. Am I carrying around a frickin' anvil? Because that's like 500 pounds of pig iron. Yes, I said pig iron like I know what the word means. All right, this skill right here. Way more explanation. Way more. Makes no sense. This one right here. Absolutely no sense. Why would I know the language better than the native? Oh, because this is the Avengers. Why hit point maximum? That never made sense. You can use armor. Well, it's only assuming my class can't use armor and stuff like that. That makes no sense. These are okay. It's nothing we haven't seen before. Combat count, elemental savant, that's fine. Mental fortitude, kind of weird, but okay. School specialization, slightly more powerful than the normal school specialization, but whatever. Yeah, feels more of the same. Feels like there's things that need better explanations. I'm going to say that a lot. I need a better explanation. And again, what are you offering me that I don't already have in 5th edition? Because right now it's just 5th edition with some things slightly changed. I already have 5th edition. Why do I need your 5th edition? Now, again, I know you started writing this before we knew that 5th edition was not going away. So you have a year and change to make this different enough, to make it exciting enough that I would want to switch from the rule system I already have to your rule system, especially if you're going to continue to make 5e and 5e adjacent product. Well, if you're already making stuff that works for the rule system I have, why do I need to buy your rule system? So you need to make this exciting enough and different enough and fix everything that's broken in 5e, so that I would rather play Black Flag and use all the 5e stuff I have in the present and from the past, then continue to play 5e, which will still exist in some form. Obviously, we're not going to see any repeats of the player's handbooks, and Wizards of the Coast is not going to make any new 5e, but 5e as of today is not going away. So now, knowing this, Kobold Press, you have this year plus change ahead of you to make Project Black Flag exciting enough that those people who are playing 5e are going to switch. Hey, I see we have some comments. Let's take a look at those. Rambler, Project BF can, but it's just a clone that doesn't seem to change much. Yes, that's what I said. And we need something new and different. Hello, Rambler. Please like, please share, please subscribe. Need More Cowbell says, I'm surprised they haven't gone down a more high fantasy road. Can you imagine a Fey game in a Fey realm where you aren't bound by money or physics or economics? Because, yeah, I guess that would be one way to go, is to make it even more 5e than 5e is, to make it even more fantasy Avengers, to make it even more over-the-top ridiculous than 5e is today. I guess, yeah, that's one way to look at it. Let's see. Rambler says, I'd go all in on high magic. Hello, Rambler. Welcome to the OGGM Adventures. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. I'd love to play a gnome, darkling, or goblin that adventures to collect buttons in a fairy realm. Well, that's a setting, and I guess you would just need the setting rules to be more fairy realm. So isn't that, Witchlight? So you want the rule system for Project Black Flag to be more almost cartoonish. With a name like Project Black Flag, I kind of wanted it to be more pirate. I wanted them to take everything like, here are these piratey settings. And, we have had done fantasy pirates before, but let's do a better version of fantasy pirates. Let's do Freeport better. But instead, right now, it just reads as kind of this stuff I've already seen. But again, this is just the starting. And again, this is coming out of January, where they were starting this under the assumption that there would be no 5e. So they'd be the only, ice cream flavor on the truck. But now they're not. So now they have to look at the responses to the survey, which you can still take. The survey is open to the end of this month. And they would, see things like need more cowbell going, make Project Black Flag more ridiculous, make it all about fantasy realms and gnomes having to collect buttons and stuff like that. Take it in a bizarre, new, embrace the over-the-topness, embrace the fantasy Avengers. Rambler says that would be pretty fun. Rambler says, those people who hate playing at my table, hold means hold. If it doesn't hold, you might as well just use slow. Exactly. But remember, my agency, what do you mean my character can't do anything for 6 rounds? That's toxic. You're racist, which is why Wizards of the Coast changed it. Hit points equals current. Hit point max equals full health. Yeah, that's what I think it means. So I could temporarily have more full health, which means I could heal up higher than my max if something gave me a higher hit point maximum. But what happens to those extra hit points when the spell wears off? Or stuff like that. I thought my profession was adventurer. No, you did something before adventuring. We just need more real professions. We need farmer, blacksmith, cow herder, weaver, third son. Why am I doing the same bitch work I was doing before I was an adventurer? To make money, I guess. I was a blacksmith. I'm out adventuring. Now we're in the town. I need to make money. I need to repair the armor. So I'm going to use my blacksmith skill for a day to see if we can drum up some extra armor and I can repair all the armor in the party. So, yeah, just the skill. But I never understood about 5e is what the tools actually did and what the tools actually included. Because to blacksmith, I need a open fire that I can stoke at a certain temperature, hot enough to melt metal so I can reforge the metal. Then I need a anvil that I can hammer the metal with and temper the steel, which means I also need a really big hammer. Then I need a bucket of water, and then I also need the molds. Now that's a lot of stuff to carry around because an anvil alone weighs like, 200 pounds? A frickin' forge? How do I carry that around? These are the questions that keep me up at night. If I enjoyed this kind of work, why did I become an adventurer? Because it was boring. And yeah, there's always that question. If I've already got 100 gold pieces, I've already got a job, why would I leave the village to justify risking life and limb, armed with nothing but a stick and good intentions, if I could just stay home and make 2 gold pieces a day, which, is a lot of money for a villager. Oh, my village was destroyed. Okay, yeah. No part-time worker is ever going to be as good as a working worker using the skill full-time. Yeah, but again, it's just written, so this is an emergency. I need to use my blacksmithing skill. Bob's armor's broken. I need to fix it. We're in the middle of the jungle, so we can't make it back to town to fix Bob's armor. So somehow I'm going to construct a blacksmithing forge out of 2 coconuts and a piece of string. Fantasy Avengers, dude. So right now, again, so that goes back to the first statement. Either make this more high fantasy, so it's not just 5e, or make it low-powered 5e more realistic, so it's not just 5e. Make a rule system that fits the stuff Kobold Press has built some more. So, the Midgard campaign setting is their main thing, right? And they've also done some supplements that are, world agnostic, but for the most part, they've been focusing on Midgard. So their 5e retro clone Project Black Flag needs to embrace whatever the flavor of Midgard is, and then make it just, here is the Midgard role-playing game rules, Project Black Flag. If it's just going to be more the same, why should I spend $50 to $100 Project Black Flag on something I already have? I already got 5e. Well, I don't personally, but people do. I donated my 5e stuff, but I could easily pick it up again, and it's online. So that's the problem that faces them. And that's the problem that faces anybody else who says they're making their own 5e rule set. You started this because we were all under the impression that 5e was just going to magically go away. And Wizards of the Coast wasn't going to let us make third-party 5e stuff anymore. But now that's changed. 5e is not magically going away. Of course, 5e was never magically going to go away. There was absolutely no way that Wizards of the Coast could stop you from playing 5th edition. Especially since the rules are online for free. All they were going to do is stop supporting it. We're not going to make 5e stuff anymore. We don't want you to make 5e stuff anymore. Now we're not going to make 5e stuff, but if you still want to make 5e stuff, well, we're not supporting it, but if you want to continue to support it, great. It gives us more attention, and you guys can continue to make 5e shit, and we don't have to, worry about this anymore, because now we're making 6e stuff. Except, of course, as of the latest thing, 6e is now not a new system. It's just a rewrite expansion of 5e. So then why should I buy 6e if I already have 5e and you're not doing anything really new or exciting? Because now you're saying it's not a new system. So, yeah. What's going on with that, Wizards of the Coast? Make up your mind. All right, let's take a moment, catch your breath, take a sip of coffee if you have one. Please take a moment to like, share, subscribe. If you appreciate this content, consider supporting me, because this is my job. I've got the PayPal, I've got the Ko-Fi, I've got the Patreon, I've got memberships. Maybe someday I might do something with that. I don't know what, because I barely can understand how Twitch works. Which means that the best way to support the OGGM Adventures is, of course, to head on over to Big Geek Emporium and buy my merch, my 7 issues of Minions on a Mission monster zines, presenting a bare minimum of 10 new monsters each issue for your role-playing game of choice, all for under $2. Sure, you could go to the competitors and get the exact same thing for $20, $30, $50, or $100, or you can go over to Big Geek Emporium and pick up mine for $2. Which one do you think is a better option? Mine. Links down below. Till next time. That's it for our review of the first chunk of Project Black Flag. And so far, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, cats and dogs, the OGGM is not impressed. It's nothing I haven't seen before. You're not doing anything that excites me to want to make me run this system. So, sorry, Kobold Press. You really need to step up your game. Or you could support me and then I'll simp the fuck for you, because we know I will sell out. Drinking my, sponsored coffee here. Links down below. If you want to support the OGGM, that's it for today. I will talk to you all later. Till then, in the immortal words of me, get off my land.